Do. And we are live for another YEV. YEV, Kevin, Alex, why?
Why not?
There we go. So
we didn't rehearse that even. That's the
what? Sorry, what did you say, Alex?
We didn't even rehearse that. That's
No,
great minds moment.
I like off the cuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought I'd just set an agenda today. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about exciting new models coming out in news. Then we're going to talk about what we've been doing because we're always active in the EV and car space. And then we're going to get to the main subject, which is all about how powerful does an electric car need to be exciting? Is that a good summary, guys?
Yeah.
Happy days. Happy days. Right. So news. Where shall we start? I would like to start. Sorry, I'm going to interject now with the most exciting electric car. But for me, which is the Rimac Nevera R. Nevera R. Have you guys seen that this week?
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. It looks quite a bit more aggressive than the old one. Wasn't that the previous version? Wasn't that the one Richard Hammond crashed, their prototype?
Yeah, it was the prototype that he had some fun and games in. But I'm going to share the screen so everyone can see. Tell me if it's coming up, guys, because I can't see. You guys watching this? Yep. So Matt Watson revealed on CarWow the new Rimac Nevera R. Look at it, completely new front bumper, new side. It looks epic. In my opinion, what do you think, guys? What do you think of the look?
It's not playing on your screen.
It's not playing. Yeah,
I've the same. Here we go.
There we go. Right.
Right. Is it playing now? Is it playing?
No, it just says exit full screen.
Okay.
Right.
There we go. It's showing now. There we go. What do you guys think?
No, it's a good looking car. It's for sure. It's got the traditional kind of supercar presence to it, or hypercar presence to it. It's cool. It's a cool machine.
Yeah, it's got a bit more. It looks a bit angrier than the last one. I think still got similar lights. Those lights remind me of the back of the i8, though. I know they're not i8 lights, but they do look like they're off the BMW i8.
Unfortunately, my eyes have gone on to the gorgeous Ukrainian women online to the right of the Nevera. So clearly, it's not good looking enough. So much so that Kevin's gone away to have a closer look, I think. But no, the stats on this is absolutely amazing. Oh, he's back in the room. That won't long. Yeah. So it's got about 100 brake horsepower more than the old one. It's got completely new body design, more aero, more downforce. 0 to 300 kilometers an hour. Get this, 8.66 seconds. That's unbelievable. 0 to 60 is not any quicker than the previous one, which looked a little bit tamer. There it is. There we go. God, didn't even write this. And so the 0 to 60 is still 1.88. The R is £300,000 more, and I thought it was actually going to be a lot more than that. So it's just shy of 2 million. So if we start saving,
it is wild how quickly we've become used to. It's obviously 2,000 horsepower is still a staggering amount of power, but it's amazing how quickly we've become used to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of horsepower becoming quite normal.
Because I looked at some stats on things like Ferrari F50s and Ferrari Enzos, and you've got relatively normal road cars like the Ioniq 5N putting out power similar to, or if not more than something like a Ferrari F50 or a Ferrari Enzo. So it's just become a bit of an arms race with EVs. How high can they get? I mean, there's got to be a limit because you're going to be pushing the limits of tires and everything when you get to those sort of power levels.
Yeah. What's the supercar, the Lotus one? Is it not the Electra? What's the one that crashed at Goodwood Festival of Speed?
Evija.
I saw a Nürburgring drive of that round the track. It was like 6 minutes, something or other. Oh my! I really urge anyone to watch that video of him going around the tracks. Unbelievable. Absolutely. Just, I mean, I watch a lot of the Misha Nürburgring laps, which are pretty quick, but that is it's just a whole new level. So yeah, I mean, do we really need that much performance? Certainly not on UK roads. Maybe on the Autobahn it'd be a lot of fun.
Plenty you can learn from, I guess from those cars in terms of things like aerodynamics and cooling and other things, I guess, that then filter down into your regular stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly the arms race at the top end of the EV spectrum is absolutely staggering at the moment. It really is.
Well, I mean, comes power, comes great responsibility. But also, I think soon it will be, as the battery chemistry and the power density and the weight comes down, that's when we start to get more fun EVs. And talking about fun EVs, who wants to take the next one?
I was going to say, Kev, do you want to go in with where you were this week? All right.
Well, actually, it'll be you first, isn't it, with the electric GTI, because you're a bit of a VW fan, hence the backdrop behind you, Alex.
So,
I am, I'm a bit of a Volkswagen fanboy in many ways, and I'm quite interested to see that. This concept, when it came out last year, really caught my attention, because I guess in some ways the GTX stuff hasn't kind of quite captured my imagination in the same way. Volkswagen's hot electric era kind of started with SUVs, and we're only now starting to get the ID3, which is kind of more of an R than a GTI. But anyway, Volkswagen showed a concept last year which is based on the ID2 All concept, and it's a GTI version of that. Recently, so Volkswagen has taken on what used to be called the Wörthersee Tour, which is a kind of a big GTI fan festival that used to be held down in Austria, and they're now holding it at the base in Wolfsburg. And this year, Thomas Schaefer, the head of Volkswagen, has been talking about kind of, the top brass at Volkswagen have been talking about what might come with this new electric GTI, and they're actually making some really interesting noises. So, reported in Autocar, he's actually said that we don't really need 350 horsepower. You can actually have a GTI with less. And kind of just really focus on that GTI experience rather than kind of flat out power, which I think is quite interesting. I've been advocating for this for a long time. It's all there are some really interesting performance EVs coming along at the moment, and some really interesting stuff. I mean, like the Ioniq 5N, for example, where it's got staggering amount of power. But it's quite nice to then see that this is getting downsized into your regular sort of GTI hot hatch performance, level. So I think we're probably looking must be looking somewhere around the 250 horsepower mark with that, which is going to make it, if they get the drive experience right, that's going to be a really interesting product as well. Interesting from a French perspective. So kind of arch rival from the hot hatch side of things. Alpine been discussing a couple of months ago now, release specs for the A290, and it all sounds quite sensible actually. 220 horsepower, 300 newton meters, 62 miles per hour, and 6.4 seconds from rest. The Alpine A290 being a basically a hot tub version of the new Renault 5, so it'll look great, and it should be quite an interesting product to drive. I'm really looking forward to getting a go in that. So I'm personally, as a hot hatch person, I'm excited by the prospect of kind of having, this supercar end of the EV spectrum, which is great, but also then having this section underneath it where it's very, British roads are great for kind of things like hot hatches, where you don't have to be kind of way over the speed limit and all the rest of it all the time. You can just really enjoy it at kind of, more normal speeds. I think I'm looking forward to this kind of class of car really kind of coming into its own.
Yeah, hopefully they do.
Sorry, go on, Kevin.
Yeah, hopefully they do make an effort with it, because at the moment I've found the Volkswagen Group cars all very derivative. I've driven Skoda Enyaq, so I can pretty much tell you what an ID5 will drive like, an ID4 will drive. They all drive the same. I think it'd be good to get more focused.
Don't forget the Ford Capri.
Yeah, the Ford Capri will drive the same way.
There seems to be a bit more of a kind of last year or so. And Kevin and I actually last September went in the Polo to an event at Volkswagen HQ up in Wolfsburg, which is on YouTube. Look it up. And they actually held an event there for the first time ever for Volkswagen enthusiasts of all types, kind of going back to your air-cooled stuff and all the way through to kind of the latest vehicles out the line. So there does seem to be an awareness again that Volkswagen needs to kind of get its spirit back a little bit. I do think there has been a little bit too much of the toolkit side of things going on over the last certainly 5 or 6. Can't think why. They've had a tricky decade, I guess, Volkswagen, and it'll be nice to kind of see them get back into doing things in a kind of a very Volkswagen-y way, but in a way that's, they've always done very well. They've always done this kind of, warm hatch, warm hatch, hot hatch sort of thing, really daily usable performance car thing very, very well. So I'm really excited to see this, and I think it looks great as well. I think it looks like a proper Volkswagen.
It's front wheel drive, right?
It is front wheel drive, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always going to be about the weight, the power to weight, and the dynamics. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to have, for me, I like power, within reason, but it's got to have the dynamics. It's got to have that fun factor, and a car that I can certainly point the finger at. Where I think they've got the recipe right after coming out with the second version is the Mini. I mean, it's loads of money. And go if anyone's interested on the channel, I've got the Mini E review, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it. And I think the mixture of power and like the dynamics were just right. But I'm a bit of a, I do love my power. That's the thing. It's
there's space for both. There's space for both in the ICE world. There's space for both in the EV world, and I feel a little bit at the moment like the performance side of things tends to be quite hooked in EV terms on 0 to 62 times and power figures, and it's more to it than that. And that's exactly the same with ICE cars as well. I mean, I've had some really great drives in. I know they're behind on the EV front, but Mazda seem to be able to nail the drive, make ordinary cars drive really well. I remember taking a cross-country route in a Mazda 2 a few years ago, and actually just being surprised at not a fast car by any means, not a sports car by any means, but just how that kind of, oh god, I don't want to say the oneness thing, because that's exactly straight out of Mazda marketing material, but they really have got that sense of just it's quite an involving car to kind of chuck around for something that's really quite ordinary. Ford used to do this well with the Fiesta as well, actually, thinking on it. But
is Alex getting backhanders from Mazda now? Is this it's funny to say, Alex. The petrol car that my wife got, that we got as a cheap runabout, we were between the Honda Civic and the Mazda 3, and we really wanted the Civic, but we found the Mazda 3. And it's a Bogo, first of the newish shape, so 2010, petrol auto, and it is really quite fun, like quite engaging. So yeah, I can certainly vouch for that. So, but have you guys driven the MX-30? What's it like to drive?
It's nice to drive. It's not quick. They've done a really good job of setting up the throttle responses on it. I mean, I actually had it back to back with, ironically, the ID3, and I found early MEB cars, the throttle responses were way too sharp. So it was quite hard to kind of. It took a little bit of getting used to, but they did kind of jump off the line a little bit too much. But the MX-30, the throttle response is really progressive on it. It's really nicely sort of set up. Quite a flawed car, looks cool. I had a couple of things, like I remember opening the rear door to put something in the back of the car. Actually, I was going to visit Kev, and as I opened the rear door of the car, the booster seat, which was in the front and latched to the seatbelt, which is on the B pillar, which is attached to the rear door, yeeted sideways out of the car and clattered onto the drive. Hopefully
your kid wasn't in it at the time.
Thankfully, no. Otherwise, possibly I would have probably throttled him with the seatbelt accidentally. But it's little things like that. It's fundamentally it's quite an interesting car, just not a very good EV, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Hyundai take a leaf out of that and kind of almost scale down the Ioniq 5N. Because actually, remember 2 years ago, because you had to go as well, I had the i20N press car. And the i20N was a fun car, only 200 brake horsepower, but it was kind of an all-rounder. It was fun, and I think there's space for that kind of small EV in the, some smaller N ones that aren't as extreme as the Ioniq 5N. Maybe a Casper N.
It's all about getting that balance, and I'd say like I said, the Mini E, I've not driven enough. I mean, you guys have probably driven more electric cars, production ones, than I have, but yeah, there we go. But Kevin, you've been driving something quite exciting as well, haven't you?
So I went to the Cyberster launch. So that's the new 2-seater Roadster GT from MG.
There she is.
So yeah, I've been driving that, and I mean, here are the specs on it. So 77 kilowatt hour battery pack, range of 276 between 276 and 316 miles, depending on the power output. But this is the bit where, again, is it too much power? So the top spec one is all-wheel drive with 510 brake horsepower.
Yes,
and
please.
Then you've got the rear-wheel drive, which is only 340 brake horsepower. And actually, probably the 340 one is a much more balanced car. It's on the slightly smaller wheels. It's more of a cruiser, and that's the type of car. It's a two-seater roadster. It's kind of a cruising car. It's not really. Does it need to be as sporty as 510 brake horsepower? Is a lot of brake horsepower, especially when you compare it to the MGs of old.
I guess it depends on the car, doesn't it? It's that kind of. Sometimes you can. I mean, MX-5 is quite good fun with the small engine until you drive the big engine, then it feels just that bit more muscular. But yeah, the little 1.5 litre MX-5 is huge fun, even though it's not. Again, it's not a quick car.
What's what the doors like on the new Cyberster? Because they were really slow and annoying when I sat in one recently.
They're still the power doors. It does mean you can more easily get out of them than a lot of cars of that type normally. Because if you've driven like a BMW i8, it's not like an i8 to get out of. You can just get out of it normally.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that does annoy me is there's a ultrasonic sensor to stop it opening into something or too high. And it's on the door and you can see it, which is a bit annoying. You'd think they would have hidden it a bit more, but it just looks like a parking sensor on the side of the door. But it's a good car. The smaller wheels, I think, look fine on it.
Yeah,
you've got it drives nicely. It's just kind of a good all rounder. It's not particularly cheap, as you can see.
Look, we timed it perfectly again. You too, Kevin. 55 grand to start.
Yeah, so it's not like the rest of the MG range.
No, it's cheap to compare. Converting an electric car. I mean, classic. Sorry.
This as well. I mean, what's nice about this and about the Volkswagen previously and the Renault that I mentioned previously as well is that it's not an SUV. I'm not an SUV hater by any means. I see the value in them and I see why they're popular. But there have been, again, the EV world has been very focused on SUVs for a few years. We've had an awful lot of kind of very sort of similar things. It's nice to see some diversification in the, amongst EVs and stuff like this. It's really exciting. I'm looking forward to having a go.
Yeah, so most importantly, finish was superb on it. I mean, that's the smaller one that comes with those wheels. So that's the one with the, and they do it in a really. That's the new Old English white they do, which actually seems to suit it quite well.
Hearing beige.
It's kind of an off white. So it's
Hearing beige. It's the Allegro white, isn't
beige, so that's the thing. It's a really it's a really classic white.
Okay. What can you turn the traction control off the rear-wheel drive one?
I think it does have an ability in it. The nav system and all the screens are quite fiddly.
Right.
I mean, it looks like it's aimed for. If you're used to a Tesla, it's more everything's done by the screens. So even the air conditioning has a separate screen down by the center.
Yeah. Okay. And so did you get to drive both versions then?
I've only driven one briefly. I've driven the all-wheel drive one, so I need to drive the slower one. But all the feedback from the slower one is that it's a better all-rounder. It's a more relaxed drive.
Yeah.
I mean, but as you can see from the interior shots, they've really upped the game. It's not like the MGs of old anymore. It's basically the brand's Halo product. So they have a Halo car like a lot of brands do.
Yeah. No, it does. Everywhere. It does look like it's a good package. What going down and dirty into the real nitty gritty? Do you know what the efficiency and the max charging speed is? And
so it tops out at 144 kilowatts charging speed. So it's still 400 volt architecture, and it can do 0 to. It's similar sort of speeds to most because only a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack. So she's not too bad, having 276 and 316 miles range. So
just to say, sorry, just very quickly. Hi, Sean. No worries. Not a problem letting you in the Tesla today. Hi, Zoe. So you don't fancy a Santa Fe N? No, it's probably not the one that we want. Bonjour, Durka. All right, Durka. Excellent. RX 660. So yeah, thanks for everyone tuning in. Sorry, Kevin, I caught you out mid-flow there. I apologise.
But yeah, it'd be good to get a review of that, to drive it, more than sort of half hour around the block type thing. It's just to get a feel of how it drives and see how efficiency. See if I can beat the WLTP as usual.
No, fair play. And yeah, I mean, it does look like it's a good sports car. Like I said, it's finding that kind of mix, that kind of balance between power and the dynamics of the car. But we'll get into that in a second. But shall we talk about what we've been doing this week? Kevin, do you want to give us a rundown what you've been up to?
Yeah, so this week I've been taking part in the Leimani Efficiency Cup, which is basically, it's the final one this year. It's an efficiency thing where you compare cars from the last 100 years. So there's like some really old stuff. I mean, I know Alex has probably got some good pictures of like classic Bugattis and things like that. But there's an EV class. So I was in an EV. We were in the Mustang Mach-E. There's also the new Lotus Electra. Lotus Electra.
The SUV.
Lotus Electra. There was a Tesla Model 3. Then there was an EV9 and a BMW i4. So a wide range. I mean, we're still waiting for the official results, but the indicator on our trip computer was about 6.2. The interesting thing is it's not miles per kilowatt hour, because the original Leimani cap was miles per kilowatt hour per ton. So bear in mind, we were up against an EV9. So in miles per kilowatt hour per ton, you can kind of guess which one's probably won out of the... It was weird that the Mustang Mach-E was in one of the lightest cars there.
Yeah, it was the one where... EV9 being the same spec as the one that I had earlier this year, and I realised that if I sat in the Polo and put the Polo and me on the roof of the E-Rifter, our E-Rifter, our family car, it would weigh about the same amount as the EV9. All of those things stacked on top. About 2.8 tons, I think it is.
I keep seeing them about. I was at the Cotswolds Wildlife Park and I saw one in the parking lot. So yeah, I do see a lot about. They seem to be selling well.
They're a good car. Very, very good car. Very, very good car. UK Car of the Year on the judging panel for it. But yeah, they're very, very good. Very good car.
Yeah, I mean, we were hoping to all just get pulled around by its own gravitational field because it's so huge.
How heavy is it actually? Is it what, 2.5 tons, something like that?
No, it's 2.7 something tons. It's a lot. Yeah.
That car parks then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Warren managed to get it on the scales there, and it was coming in at just under 3 tons with all the stuff that was in it.
Yeah.
Wow. So it weighed in at 3 tons. Do you think there's actually that he only didn't have that much stuff, and it was just him, his daughter, and his wife, and some stuff? You could easily get that over the 3.5 ton legal weight, I reckon. With a couple of big blokes in there, I reckon you'd be over 3.5 tons. Which is an interesting thing. Are we making them so heavy that you end up being overweight for your driving license?
This is the thing with the Cybertruck, isn't it? Because there's a lot of talk about the Cybertruck having the wrong radius of corners and doing a Europeanized version of it. But a Europeanized one would have to be quite a lot lighter and smaller than as well as being curvier. I mean, there's obviously we've got a derogation on licensing in the UK that allows you to drive what would technically be an HGV, so a 3.5 ton plus EV on a regular license, but it doesn't make it an LCV. So you still have to have an MOT after 12 months from new, a speed limiter, and a tachograph. And so in order to be to have a 1 ton payload in the Cybertruck, you'd be up to over 4 tons. You'd be nearly 4.5 tons.
So in comparison, what is a Range Rover Vogue, like new shape? What sort of weight is that?
Mid 2.5, somewhere around that sort of region.
Wow. Okay. So it is bloody heavy. Then
it's
amazing that it gets the efficiency that it does for the weight of it. Then absolutely, astounding, really.
But yeah, the just imagining a Tesla Cybertruck with the full Cyber Beast version only being able to do 60 odd miles per hour. Yes, yeah, you can only go up to you are allowed up to that point, but you have the other. Sorry, there's a comment on the side. Yeah, you can drive them on a regular license, but you've still got other HGV related kind of restrictions on them. So you have to sort of treat it like a semi HGV, but you're allowed to still allowed to drive it on a regular license. It's an odd mix of kind of typical last government mucking about and not quite finishing things off. So
yeah, thanks Commuter Branch Line for adding that regular license allowed up to 4.25 ton for an EV. Yeah, any questions about that, or anyone that wants to interject? That's the reason why we have it live. So yeah, whack the questions in, etc., in the comments. It's great to see, especially the Santa Fe N one. That'd be interesting. But yeah, no, it's all about weight. We're talking about weight again. So this actually, before we move on, Kevin, was that what you're doing this week? Did you have any other kind of exciting EV stuff going on?
No, just mainly the Cyberster launch and then Leimani. Weirdly back to back, so getting in at 2:30 and then doing a normal day and then going to the Cyberstar launch. Yes, it's a bit of a trek from Essex.
Yeah, although very easy in a Mustang. I was the co-driver, so I was Kevin's ballast and somebody for to set a really rubbishy efficiency score for him to make up for when he was behind the wheel. But we stopped very briefly at Reading Services on the way home, plugged into the Tesla chargers there, which were about half the price of the GridServe ones opposite.
Standard.
And very kind of quickly came back out and got back on the road. You don't even need to think about it really. It's in the Mustang. And it was my first.
Less than 40 minutes on the whole trip. So the charging thing isn't really an issue, and we weren't trying to be efficient. I mean, to be fair, on the way back, I mean that's an interesting thing that we haven't mentioned is the Mustang is fitted with Blue Cruise, which is their hands off, feet off, autonomous driving thing. So it was interesting to test that. So that actually did a lot of it. It's just the same as a lot of systems. It wants you to intervene. So when it gets confused, the same as probably the Tesla system, you need to take control. It's kind of like says it's over to you now. So I don't know where we are with autonomous driving.
Yeah, there's plenty, Zoe. There's plenty of Tesla chargers available to non-Tesla. I think you have to get the Tesla app to find them and to take advantage of the cheapness. I forgot to charge Rusty, and I was driving down to Luton to pick up some batteries for Trikey from Paul Compton. Video coming soon on that. I get to drive his rather weird and wonderful kind of kit electric car. Yeah, I forgot to charge it. Tesla charger on the way down, 32 pence per kilowatt hour. It's the same as what I would pay in the day at home. So obviously night rate's better. But yeah, it's Tesla. Just makes sense, I see Kevin laughing there. I know he's not a full-on Tesla fanboy like me, but it's because you haven't owned one. You haven't driven one for a while, and I think you'd be extremely impressed by the efficiency, Kevin.
I have when I had a go of the Model Y, it was relatively efficient. I mean, it was getting 350 miles range to a charge without trying. I mean, in a way, the Mustang's too big a battery because you're carting around a 91 kilowatt hour battery. Yeah, it's a 400-mile range car, but you can't really, we didn't need to stop. So
there we go. Mark's interjected £10 monthly sub for non-Teslas cars to use their chargers, I believe. To be fair, I pay that anyway for the Tesla Premium, so I get it. But I think if you're on the road a lot and you want to guarantee a fast, not just cheaper, but generally much faster and more reliable and more plentiful, it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
You can use them ad hoc, but you get a saving if you subscribe. I'm not a subscriber. I don't use them enough to make it worthwhile, but yes, they are. They're very good.
The only
drawback.
The only drawback I found with them is in a lot of 800-volt cars, you're limited to 84 kilowatt hours. So the EV9 will charge at 270 kilowatts on an 800-volt charger. it's limited to 84 because its onboard converter from 400 to 800 maxes out at 84.
That's interesting. So you need to have the version 4 Tesla supercharger, which is the high voltage one, to take advantage of the full speed, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but not all of them are set up like that, because I did test it on the new ones, which have contactless, and it's still sat at 84, because I did test it on the EV9, and I was like, oh, and then I plugged into an Ionity, and it whacked up to 204. But was it Warren got a photo of the Tesla one, not the grid serving Braintree on the EV9, pulling 270.
Well, I don't like Ionity, because last time I plugged into an Ionity, I was there for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Because the charger plug got stuck and no one knew where the release was on the Skywell. But we got off eventually. And then I met you guys the next day, looking a bit tired.
Yeah. It's interesting you mention that, because I've been testing in the past some prototype cars on Ionity, and the person who was the engineer had to phone back to their base to work out where the release was, because I couldn't get it off an Ionity either. And it was pulling bits of trim off to try and find the emergency release.
I'll tell you what I will give to Ionity. I called them and they did answer the phone, and it wasn't some random place in Asia or what have you, which, you know, it's nice that the customer service was there, which was quite pleasant. So that's good. But yeah, no, Alex, what have you been up to, mate?
Well, yeah, I mean, just to pick up on the, I guess the end of the Leamani discussion there, it was interesting, kind of getting a bit longer with the Mustang Mach-E. The last time I drove one was not long after they launched, and it was good to kind of get a bit longer with the car. I cannot believe how easy it is to get really quite impressive efficiency out of that car when you've got it in its whisper mode, isn't it? The most efficient of the drive modes. It rolls for ages. And it's a car where if you can kind of hold off from, you know, giving it the beans, it will actually quite easy to get it up over 5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is, for a car like that, is really quite impressive, I thought. For me, I mean, I think actually as well with that, the Blue Cruise side of things, just again picking up on what Kev was saying, I haven't tried it since Blue Cruise. So this was my first Blue Cruise experience, and there's something almost a little unnatural about sitting there doing most of what you would be doing in a car with adaptive cruise control, but just having your hands in your lap.
Right.
I'm not wholly convinced by the kind of the handover and the kind of the being in that halfway house position at the moment. I think I'd almost rather just, I don't see much of an advantage compared to like just having your hands on the wheel, really. It's no more or less kind of comfortable, really. So for me, yeah, interesting to kind of get a bit more of a chance to drive that. And I've also been familiarizing myself with the new Fiat 600e this week. In top spec, so La Prima. I was really impressed with the Jeep Avenger that I had at the start of the year, which is more or less the same car, actually really similar inside. I think they're going to sell loads of them. It's great.
The 600e.
My wife's really quite attached to it as well. Yes,
I thought they were a bit ugly. I didn't think that they were that good looking, or maybe I'm thinking of the previous shape.
Yeah, they're quite similar, but I think they've managed to kind of transfer, considering they're completely unrelated, because the 500 is an FCA platform. It's interesting, look, you know, that they've managed to kind of make it look like a scaled up 500 without it being related at all. Even down to the one that I've got, that kind of greeny color. I think they'll sell loads. I think
it's got eyelashes. It's got eyelashes. I think that is quite a good looking car, actually.
I think so. The one I've got is a kind of a dark grey-green color, and
that looks fantastic. I take it all back. I think the ladies will love that, because it just looks like the eyes on it. That's brilliant. That is really. Was it that green?
It's the darker green, so the second one along at the top there.
In red, though.
Yeah, the orangey colour. I mean, it does look a little bit like a stoned clownfish in the orange, but I quite like it. It's cute. It's got a little kind of chirpy smile on its face, and yeah, the little.
Okay. Yeah, I think the red one that is really, really lovely. Yeah, I'm really impressed with that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that will do quite well. What was the efficiency in that like?
I mean, it's in the week that I've had it, I haven't done a motorway trip in it, but I've been getting the same, similar to the course that I had beforehand around town, funnily enough, because they're basically the same 154 horsepower, motor in it, but with a slightly larger battery. So I'm getting around the 4.5 to 5.
Yeah, you're right. It does look
I
like
do see that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, good shout. Good shout. But you know, like that got. You look at the MX-5, like cheeky faces, spit the old
Totally.
the sprites and stuff like that. They do really well, don't they? Like cars that have a face, a personality, and look sells a car. You know, I think so well. That's probably one
kind of two camps, isn't there?
Actually,
there's kind of two camps now. You have the very aggressive look, like the Lotus Electra and like a lot of cars, and then you've got this kind of cutesy face coming back as well, where it has kind of gone away where all the manufacturers are making cars that look really aggressive at the front.
Really aggressive, like the yellow Igo that you spoke about last time that Alex pointed out. That just came into my head. I don't know why.
That was 80 miles per gallon capable car while I was waiting for my Ioniq to be delivered.
And matching shoes as well.
Boom. Now we're talking. Well, I must admit, I had a company car, Toyota Igo, after coming back after losing my license. And I must admit, I had so much fun in that Igo around Milton Keynes. Although it didn't really have 5 gears. 4th gear used to get to about, on a private road in Mexico, 100 miles an hour. You put it in 5th and then it goes, but loads of fun. Anyway,
I got to drive, I think, probably the world's most expensive Igo. Long time ago. This was when I was working at Max Power. Remember the Igo Crazy? Yeah.
Oh, no way. What was in that? What engine was in that Igo Crazy?
It was the back end of an MR2 with a turbo conversion in it. It had unassisted, no servo on the brakes. Not all of the dials worked, and it was all like wastegate chatter the whole time. And I just remember, Peter was like little roundabout to little roundabout to little roundabout. And I just remember like just going out and just giggling and pulling up to this roundabout, and then this police car came out and kind of went around. It's like, I cannot look more conspicuous. It's two young lads in this wide-bodied, ridiculous car.
I don't remember it looking like that. Was that it?
That is it. Yeah, that's as it was. Someone damaged the splitter after we had it, and it's had a rebuild. But I'm pretty sure they've still got it actually.
Yeah, I remember the interior with the stick-on tachometer.
Yeah, it didn't work. And as I say, it had massive front brakes, but no servo. So every time you needed to stop it, there's plenty of power there, but you had to full force like stand on the pedal to stop it.
Well, yeah, that takes me back. It's a bit like, because I used to have you remember the Polo, with the VR6 in it, the green one.
Yes, yeah, that was the Venom Motorsport one. Venom Motorsport did one.
Who says we don't talk about ice cars on the EV podcast? Where is it? Polo, Venom Motorsport was green. Where is it? Come on. Venom Motorsport.
I'm getting this wrong now. Venom Motorsport was one.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not there though. Damn it. There we go. There's a bit of my Polo knowledge coming in there. So yeah, bit of digression of the ice vehicles there. Was there anything else that you got up to, Alex?
No, not much this week. It's school holidays, which is kind of restricting my my movements a bit at the moment. So yeah, plenty of experience of kind of hauling the kids around in the 600E this week and kind of getting to grips with that. So yeah, but not much on the interesting side really this week. Kind of getting back into things after being away in Portugal for a week last week.
Very nice. Oh yes, because we had George Kinghorn on last week, and if people missed it, check it out because George had some really interesting insights into Nissan Leafs and his EV conversions. And next week I'm actually popping up to go and see him. But what did I do this week?
I got one thing I forgot actually. Last week in Portugal, I ordered an Uber and it turned up and it was an Ampere E, which is a car I've never been out in. So I got 20 minutes in the back of an Ampere E last week, picking up some pizzas from a place in Portugal. It was it's a nice little car actually. That it's one of those cars that I was a bit disappointed we never really got in the UK.
So that's the Chevy Bolt.
Chevy Bolt, yeah.
Okay. Well, I started my week off with chasing status at the MK Bowl, which was quite an exciting event. So we did have a little prance around at that one. And then what else did I do last week? So I got the job. So I'll be announcing what job I've got very, very soon. As soon as I've passed sorted out contract starting September. Very excited about that. And I went to go and see Paul Compton. And anyone who's not heard of him. He used to do EV conversions back in the early noughties, late 90s. He had the first Scirocco. It was a Scirocco. It's a bit you, Alex. It's a Scirocco Mark 1, so a Carman Scirocco. It had lead acid batteries, DC motor, and it did do over 100 miles an hour. So I went to go and see him because we were doing some battery, bit of a battery swap. I was giving him a couple of MG modules, and he was giving me some batteries for Trikey, which are down here, but I don't think it's actually going to work, unfortunately. But I got to drive, and he drove me in his GTM electric car, which is a weird kind of it's almost also like a kit car made out of a Metro. Very interesting bit of kit. So that will be on the channel next week or so. And then today I was at a Fliptic car show. I did a couple of TikToks and I've got a load of photos on the socials, so go and check that out. And I took Rusty down there with a massive Chargeheads flag, and there was a Tesla Model S down there as well. I did a little video on it. That's on YouTube, which is a Tesla Model S, which had been modified and had a speaker exhaust system, which was most people hate. So, but this week coming, I've got loads going on. Really excited. Going to go and see an electric Cobra. I'm going to see George Kinghorn. I'm doing a speed awareness course. Oops, maybe I should have said that. And then Friday, I'm going to see Eco Classics. And yeah, just basically organising EV festival as well. Sorting out t-shirts for that. So anybody fancies a Chargeheads t-shirt, please let me know. I'll just make sure I've got enough of, the t-shirts. If people want one, they'll be about 15 quid, various colors. So let me know. So that's been a busy week. It's going to be another crazy one next week. So that's been me really. Yeah. Shall we go into the subject in hand?
Yep.
How much power do we need? Now, for me personally, I'm gonna be on the side of as much power as possible, but I do get as much power as possible. But I like the idea of being able to tune it down and having that balance. But I am a bit of a power freak. I do love my power. Saying that, when I was doing the EV conversion on the TVR, I wanted the small drive unit or Model 3. I didn't want to go crazy moggy electric classic car power, but originally I was doing a Nissan Leaf motor, and I was going to go with that, but I think it was the fact that it was a brand of a Nissan Leaf, and you think Nissan Leaf motor and a TVR is probably not going to probably put more people and it will turn on, so that's the reason I went Tesla power. But what about you guys? I mean, I personally think to get more people engaged into electric cars, I think the power it's important to start with. But as time goes on, battery technology improves and there's less batteries, less weight of batteries, and we can make electric cars more fun. That'll be the time to bring the balance and the more kind of, not as crazy power, because you won't need it. It'll be lighter, it will be more fun, more agile. That's the way I see it. But for now, I say to infinity and beyond, brake horsepower.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think, the interesting thing is there aren't really any slow EVs. I mean, you look at, my wife drives a Hyundai Kona, which is over 200 brake horsepower. It's the previous shape one. I mean, hers is better because it's running on different tires. But the early ones, they could spin the wheels if it was damp when you put your foot down at 40. So I think, you think 200 brake horsepower. I remember back in kind of 2000, I was looking at a Civic Type R, and that was only 197 brake horsepower. So you're talking that, even the most basic EV.
There's no torque in those EP3s. You have to rev the nuts off them because they're like 160 newton meters of torque. There's just nothing to it. But out of interest, is it a facelift old shape Kona? Or
so it's the facelift where you get the full NVIDIA powered dash.
64 kilowatt hour battery?
64, yeah.
64,
Goes forever. It just doesn't run out. It's overkill for a lot of the time. But yeah, that's kind of more than enough power, actually. And I find I've got the smaller battery, Ioniq 5, which is only 170 odd brake horsepower, which is similar to the Leon diesels I used to have. And it's more than enough to be quick. I mean, you think the first EV we had, Renault Zoe, was that 80 brake horsepower? But it felt quicker than 80 brake horsepower because of the torque. So I think, as much as I love the Ioniq 5N with 650 brake horsepower, when you actually ever going to really be able to use it's purely for bragging rights, isn't it, to say you've got 650 brake horsepower. So yeah, it's just trying to get. I think you need a balance, and I think maybe just more fun, where you can have fun like you used to have in those hot hatches of old, as we were speaking about earlier.
Yeah, I think there's an experience side to it, isn't there? I mean, I think that's people get hung up on noise. I think that's nonsense. I don't think the noise side of things is as big a deal as I'm actually all for hearing the noise of the motor. They sound different. EVs sound different. So let's not try and make them sound like ICE vehicles. Let's enjoy the sound, the mechanical sound that you get from an EV motor, much in the same way that a 4-cylinder and an 800, and a V8, sorry, don't sound the same. There's no need for them to sound or to try and sound like an ICE car is my kind of view of things. Power-wise, I mean, this isn't going to become as much of a surprise given what I was saying earlier, but stats-wise, I'm interested in something around the 6.5 seconds to 60 point of view. Something with paddles on the paddles for just the regen on the steering column. 250 maybe 300 horsepower, 300 miles of motorway range. Reasonably quick charging. No more than about 1.6 to 1.8 tons.
Did you say 300 miles of motorway range?
Yeah, 250 to 300. I don't think you need more than 250 actually, yeah. But I'm thinking. I started to then think of Kona stuff, and I was thinking,
my Tesla with the battery degradation it's got, realistically, is 250 motorway miles. But depending again whether it's winter or because in the summer you put the aircon on. Between summer and winter, you don't put the aircon on because I just don't because I like to try and eke out some more mileage. And then if it's like -3, it's probably 230 with the heated seats on and stuff, which I think is fine. But I think the key is, I mean, I'll always stop to go to the toilet or grab a coffee, so making sure the infrastructure's there. But I mean, in a way, we're pretty much describing what our perfect EV would be, aren't we?
Yeah, my perfect EV would be a hot hatch. I'm actually, as I say, I'm genuinely excited about if they get the drive right, the way that it drives right. I'm really excited about that Volkswagen GTI concept because that actually sounds right up my alley in terms of, from what I think, and I know people will disagree. I think it's more fun to drive a slow car quickly than a fast car slowly. If you have a car with excessive amounts of power, you're never really going to feel like you're actually driving the thing. Unless you've got a track or kind of you're willing to really kind of risk, license and limb on the road.
I completely, I know I sound power hungry and all the rest of it, but one of the most fun cars I ever had was a naturally aspirated, my Nissan S14 Silvia SR20DE, same engine in the Primera GT and the Almera GTI. It was running about 170 brake horsepower, really light, brakes were good. Suspension was nice, had Recaros in it. So I'd modded it just right. But because I was using it as a drift car, I needed more power. But as a daily, everyday car, it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. You really give it some, some shit.
I had a fun experience. A friend of mine doesn't have it anymore. Long since got rid of it. But he had a really, really well set up Mazda MX. Mazda, it was a Unos Roadster. Really, really early MX-5, 1.6, imported from Japan. The guy had owned it in Japan way beyond the point where they become really expensive to run, and it had things like a titanium exhaust and all sorts of really trick suspension bits on it. 8 minutes 44 was getting that around the Nürburgring. It was his bridge to gantry record at the Nürburgring.
Wow!
Now, sat in the passenger seat of that, we were on all the corners of that. We were kind of getting past all this really quick stuff, and then there's a few sections of the Nürburgring where it's all about power, and these cars were kind of catching up and getting past us. And then, as soon as we get into the technical stuff again, he was able to get past it. So,
this is a really interesting thing that Mark's brought up. Why would you want to have paddles for regen modes? I always thought that having max regen for one pedal driving is ideally suited for electric cars. What's the benefits for it being dynamic? Now, I'm sure Kevin's got a word to say on this one, and I just want to start it off because I just want to. And I do like the idea of regen. I personally, for any electric car, I love one pedal driving, but I think it's being able to adjust the regen sometimes. So you're not only making it more efficient, which I think Kevin will probably go into a bit more depth of, but I think it's kind of just, yeah, because sometimes you take your foot off the accelerator and something happens ahead of you. So you need it to be stronger, or you need it to be slightly less strong to make sure that you maximize the efficiency. And that's where I like the idea of paddles, but there's no paddles on the Tesla, but it does have one pedal braking. But yeah, Kevin, what's your thoughts on that?
So see, this is where I kind of disagree, because actually all the records I've done, we've had the lowest regen settings, because you're actually far better off doing it on the brake pedal alone, because you can feel the point where regen goes to normal braking. And actually the paddles make it so you can be much lower, because sometimes you want it to roll a little bit more because you want to get straight out on a roundabout. It's all about that control. Whereas one pedal, I find you tend to be fighting against the regen, because sometimes it slows down quicker than you like. So one pedal's fine around town. When you want sort of efficiency, and if you want the fun on those country lanes, you don't want high regen. You want it to kind of roll into the corners a bit so you can power out of them. And that too high regen, you're just coming to a stop. So I think that's why Hyundai are really good with that. I mean, Ford does it with the different drive modes. So you've got Whisper, which rolls forever. And then you've got Active, which is a bit more active. And a lot of cars now, the Ford can do it, all the Hyundai and Kias can do it, is they actually take the data. If you have auto regen on, they take the data from the road and the mapping system and the radar, and they will tailor it for you. So you'll find that it'll slow down a bit more, and it'll even slow down for roundabouts because it knows the roundabout's there because it's got that map data. So they're getting a lot clever at the dynamic regen, and being able to sort of vary that is quite nice. So the Hyundai, you can hold it down and put it into one pedal mode, or you can have really low regen, or you can have a mix of auto. So I think that dynamic control helps you get the best out of a car, so you can be more efficient, or you can have more fun around the twisties.
Yeah, I think Kevin's pretty much taken the words out of my mouth on that. And we've got our E-Rift has got two. Not that the E-Rift is something you want to go and drive the door handles off anyway, but like most Stellantis stuff, it's got 2-stage regen. And I think I'd want somewhere in the region of like 4. I'd want another mode below D where you could basically let it roll, and another one above B where it would basically give you one pedal driving. We've got sort of 2 modes in the middle, one where you get quite a lot of regen, which I use all the time around town, and I really like because I can kind of coast around on that, and lift off when I get close to a junction with enough planning. I can kind of keep the car rolling, or I can stick it in D when I'm on the motorway. But it'd be nice to have one, as I say, one setting either side of that, just to kind of dial in a little bit more or dial in a bit less. And I like on kind of winding roads and stuff to be able to kind of dial in that little bit more or a little bit less, and just have that on the steering wheel. It just kind of, for me, adds to the experience. I enjoy that in a car.
It sounds like that I need to drive this Whisper mode. I don't think I've driven an electric Ford yet, and I've not certainly taken a Hyundai on a long-term test drive, although I really fancy a Kona to replace the Mazda 3 petrol we've got. But I must admit, if there was a Ford with the Whisper mode, I would hope that as soon as you put it in Whisper mode, it just automatically comes up with a Whisper. And there could be a gold choice if you really wanted a gold Whisper, because there's times that sometimes a Whisper just isn't enough. And you just need that caramel as well. But Mark, you're coming out with some great questions today. Thank you so much. I was of the assumption that max regen was the most efficient. Plus it saves pads and discs, which is very true. I'm in a Tesla where regen setting is a couple of button presses. Yeah, I don't find it too easy to find the change in the regen in the Tesla, but maybe the sexy buttons could make it a bit more easy. Or there might be other aftermarket things, but yeah, I think it's just, I don't think they do off. Do they do off? Yeah, I think they must do off. It's off, low, and harsh. I've not really played with it because I just use the regen just to.
It's in the screen as well, isn't it, on the Tesla? It is on the Polestar as well. There's no. I like having that ability to just do it on fingertips. A bit like shifting up and down through gears on in an automatic, or a DSG type car.
And this is the key as well with low regen is actually if you you're gentle on the pedal, you are still saving your discs and pads, because you can get a feel of where the real brakes start. And because all electric cars tend to have 2-stage braking, so your regen on the first part of the pedal, and it's only that last bit that does it. So if you're gentle on the brakes, you can be, my brake pads on my Ioniq 5 are still pretty much hardly been used and stuff. I mean, the one thing that you'd struggle with is, just in the comment, as neutral mode. Neutral mode would disengage the motor totally, so you would then be entirely on the mechanical brakes.
I didn't know that there was a neutral mode. That's Papa Chargeheads coming in there. Thanks, Dad. I didn't know that ID3 has a neutral mode. So what's that? That's just literally just free roll sort of thing.
Yeah, it disengages it. It's basically so you can get onto the back of a breakdown truck, or if you need to push it there. The Mustang Mach-E is actually rated to be towed wheels down. So if you put it in neutral, you can tow it wheels down, which not many EVs allow.
That's unusual, yeah.
Apparently, I think I was watching Rich Rebuilds, and he's bought a cheap Fisker for like $10,000 or something like that. And apparently, when it's in like that mode where it's, I don't know, flat battery or something, all the wheels are locked. You cannot move it.
We had an ID3. I don't know if I definitely mentioned it on here last week, but whether the last time I was on, but I don't know if it was while we were on air. I had an ID3 have a meltdown on me. One of the early launch cars, and it had a 70 plate one, and it had a meltdown. And it ended. The headlights were stuck on. They were pointing at the ground. The indicators weren't working. The pedestrian warning sign was cycling. We pushed it into here because I didn't want to leave it on the drive, and this car was having a service at the time. And obviously, overnight, being sat in the garage, it was completely dead the following morning. And it didn't like getting wheeled. It was very hard to get it into neutral, and then it kept, when we were rolling it, so got a slight slope to the drive, and we got it onto the drive, and it started rolling away. It kept putting the brakes on and saying, "I'm rolling away. I'm rolling away." They got to the point where they were going to get what are those things called, where you put them under the wheels and you jack them up, and then it's got coasters underneath it, dollies or something.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Ended up not. They managed to get it to roll enough to get it onto the truck.
And this is exactly why I wouldn't really be. I'm not keen to buy a VAG electric car, because I just don't think they've got that reliability. I just simply don't. I've seen so many, like the Audi e-trons, the older ones. I'm just not that confident in the VW Audi group EV stuff. I mean, the fact that who they combine with now. Who's the company? The Chinese company they've combined with now.
I should know this. I can't think who it is. Sorry.
It's completely escaped me.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's gonna. It's FAW, isn't it? Volkswagen, is it FAW? Geez, sorry. I should be the one that should know this. I'm sure it's Volkswagen.
We all should know this. We should all know this.
See, I'm streaming off a 4G phone and a tether here, so I'm not the best person to be looking this up. But
I will look this up.
Yeah, Psych. They are. Yeah, they're doing CO2 sharing with it. Yeah, they're doing CO2 sharing with Psych in Europe, aren't they?
Xpeng.
Oh,
Xpeng.
They are with FAW as well, but
are they really? No. I thought it was just Xpeng. They bought Xpeng. They might be associated with SIAC, because SIAC is Maxus, MG. They got a few others actually.
It's Innovation Auto soon.
It is Xpeng that they've teamed up with, because I think the fact that they've got the Xpeng tech, because the Chinese tech is going to be some of the best out there. It's just some of the weirdities of the all the annoying bongs and all the certain quality, not always, but some of the quality weirdness of Chinese cars. But I think if VW have got the tech of Xpeng and they get that blend right, I think they will be onto a winner. But yeah, we'll see.
There's a Volkswagen-ness to a Volkswagen that lasts up until about the mid 2010s, where if you get out of, say, a Mark 1 Golf and into a Mark 7, certainly pre-facelift, you can kind of you can feel the evolution that goes through it. There's this familiarity to the way the controls feel and everywhere everything's laid out. That's kind of been lost with certainly the 7.5 and definitely with the 8. So, and with the whole ID series as well, they've got some quite clever things in them, but they're not. So it's interesting to see what's happening with the ID2, the GTI that we saw earlier, and whether they kind of. I've noticed they've got a few extra buttons and things back in, and they're trying to kind of regain that Volkswagen-ness again. So.
Well, commuter branch lines mentioned Xpeng for Audi high up stuff, SIAC for the common or garden VW. I like that. And Rimac for the Porker and the Bugatti. Yeah, it could be right on that one, because certainly that does seem to be the way that it's gone. Fox EV, good to see a first comment in there from yourself, buddy. Had to hobble a few Nissan Leafs around on dollies before after we removed the batteries. There we go. And there we go. Dad's popping in. My 70 plate ID3 has been faultless. 12K. Drives like my old Mark 1 Golf. There we go.
You know, they swapped places that week. So I picked this up from the garage, and it ran out of fuel. So within the space of about 3 days, I had range anxiety in a nice vehicle, and I had a brand new car that got towed away on an AA truck. So the old car was reliable but ran out of range, and the new electric car got towed away. But I'd quite like an ID3. I've got a bit of a despite my experience with them, I'm kind of tempted. I've seen a couple of modified ones around, and I kind of that'd be quite a fun thing.
This is it. This is the only thing that tempts me with the ID3 is the fact that I have seen a few modified ones. I've got
They do look good.
Yeah, there's a really good modified one on my petrol hedonism video where I had the little miniature Mini. So it's about a year ago, maybe a bit more, on the channel. Check it out. It was like a Nardo grey, good old Nardo primer grey.
Everything's bloody Nardo grey these days.
God, no thanks. But yeah, no, he had quite a lot of nice bits and bobs done to it. But yeah, that's the only thing that tempts with the ID3, and that's one of the main reasons I got the Tesla, is because the mods, the availability of personalizing it are there. But there we go. But yeah, we were talking about balance. What cars? What do we think is the best? Like the top 3 best cars, which aren't too crazy in terms of performance, but got the nice dynamics. I'm going to put, just because I've driven it, is the new shape Mini E. I thought that was pretty darn good in terms of all rounder.
I haven't tried that one yet.
It's worth going for. Kevin, you've driven lots of electric cars. What's in your mind as being a fun electric car?
Well, I'm trying to think, because actually, I quite like the Mustang Mach-E, but then it's a bit of overkill, because even the 2-wheel drive one's 292 brake horsepower.
But it's fun. It's an SUV. How fun can it be to drive? Really,
it's actually, they've made it quite fun, but it does have a drawback, as Alex will probably agree. The suspension is a bit on the
floppy,
aggressive side. Yeah, it rebounds quite heavily front and forward. It kind of, as you're going, if you're on a bumpy road, it has a tendency to kind of pitch backwards and front to back.
Yeah, so if you're following it, I think it would probably look like, Subarus used to look, that sort of bouncing along. It does that. So it's kind of, the Ioniq 5 is more comfortable, but I think again, we're talking about this, the cars, the cars you like are from the memories you've had from them. So I suppose I'm a bit biased. The memories I've had is 4 Guinness World Records out of Mustang Mach-E, so that's going to colour my opinion on it. So I think that's, you remember some cars which are awful, but the fun you had in it, like, my wife and I, she used to have a smart car, and we went on so many different things in that fundamentally very flawed car with a gearbox that you'd have to send it like an email or a postcard for it to shift up or down because it was that slow. But then that car we remember because of the camping trips we did and stuff, and it's like that. And I think it's memories that make you remember a car rather than just out and out performance.
Yeah. What's the MG4? I mean, I've driven the X-Power MG4, and I've not driven it any distance. I just did a 0 to 60 and braking in it, which it did feel like it was quite light and nimble. Has anyone driven one any decent distance? Because it felt like that might be a good sort of shack about.
Yeah,
it's a good steer, the MG4. Actually, I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's a nice, it's a good little car to drive.
Has anybody who's watching live, anyone got any particular car that was blown away, was really impressed by the handling? And something that's quite clear, road holding and handling are different. So handling is what it feels like. I got told this recently by Paul, and road holding is, what it actually, the grip level. So, for me, it's like the handling, does it make you smile? Is it, kilowatt hours per smile? No, something like that.
Kilowatt hour, isn't it?
That's it.
I did enjoy the. I mean, I've only driven one Polestar 2, and it was a top spec with the performance pack, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really good fun car to drive. Although it had everything in its favour. I've got a rear wheel drive one coming in 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of a standard one without all the fancy Olins and Brembo bits and so on is like. Model 3, for example, I've never driven a top spec performance one of those. I've driven the regular long range version. So, I in terms of kind of being a purebred driver's car, it's a tricky one. It's a lot of them that drive nicely, but there's not a lot that are kind of feel sporty in the same way as some of the kind of the really thorough. I think we're getting to that point now. Yes, actually, that is a point. i3 was fun, and actually i4 is a staggering. The standard eDrive 40 i4 is a really good car to drive. The M50 is ridiculous.
Yeah,
certainly on the excessive side, really very impressive. Yeah.
Does the i4 have the sound as well as the M50?
It does. Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Oh no, I was going to say. Oh, I can't. Yeah, to be what you mean the standard the basic one, the eDrive 40.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I drove several things on that day, and I can't remember for sure. I have a feeling it does. I have a feeling they all do.
Expensive, because I must admit, when I talk about cars and recommend EVs and stuff, I always say if you want German build quality, I'd recommend the BMW over the VAG and the Mercedes.
Yeah.
And I mean but they're jolly expensive. I've been checking out the leases, because the way I see it, it's just going to get, the leases are going to get, unless it's someone like Tesla, the lease is just going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, because they're not going to be, the manufacturers aren't going to be hitting the ZEV mandate where they have to have at least 22% of their cars registered to be electric. So there's going to be crazy deals out there, I'm sure. But BMW, God, the price of them, they are not cheap compared to a lot of them. I tell you what, I saw a great deal at the moment, Hyundai Kona, new shape. They're peanuts. Compared,
really?
I mean, they're like comparable to like the MGs and stuff like that, which would like surprise me massively.
Yeah. When I priced them up, they were the same price. So the Kona is the same price as the MG.
There we go.
You can get one with a bigger discount.
Metal Lemon, that's your first comment, I think. Thanks for taking part. BMW i3 is a go-kart in comparison. That's what Alex was saying as well. To my
sorry, I got that from that comment. Yeah.
All right, just starts about and keeps you honest. I think what I was going to say is I don't think it's not necessarily the way it handles on the road holding, but it's also what give there is. So with the Tesla long range, you can't turn the traction control off. There's no sport mode. So I think for me, it would be that mixture, and again, balance about, nice power, the handling, and it giving you a little bit of leeway to be able to, get a bit of lift off oversteer or a little bit sideways before anything cuts in. Because that would make it more of a driver's car, more of a fun car. I think that's the way I see it, thinking about it.
Yes, it's having that control over it. I think that's, again, going back to the paddle thing we were talking about earlier, is kind of having just these little things that just make it that little bit less like, flicking a switch, I guess.
I just want to go sideways, basically. I got
I really want to try one of those. Should be an R though.
ID3PA GTX Performance. Not 6. 5.
See, I think that should be an ID3R, because if you think about the car, the what's it called, Pikes Peak car, and the one they set the Nürburgring times in, it was the IDR. So I always thought keep the ID range as it is as the R, and then have the GTI underneath it when you get the new platform with front wheel drive.
So yeah, Papa Chargeheads has just put in ID3 GTX Performance, 79 kilowatt hour battery, 326 PS, 0-65.7 seconds. I don't think it's going to be an R, and it would need to be more serious performance than that to be an R, in my opinion. That's the warm. I think they would want one, wouldn't they, to compare to the Tesla Model 3. They would need to have one at least 4 second. Like to get you think about the BYD seal, performance, that's like 3.6, 3.7. The MGX power, that's 3.8, 3.7. It needs to be that sort of 0 to 60 to be comparable. Otherwise, people just will think R for really slow. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's because the new one's under 5 seconds, isn't it? The new R. So Golf R is 4.6 or 4.7, something around that sort of point.
There we go. Another comment there from commuter branch line. Yes, i3 as a hoot. Try one in the snow with those skinny tires. Yes, sideways. I thought the M3L long range wasn't too bad out of the box. I found it a little bit floaty before I put the suspension on it. But yeah, I think I thought it was a nice drive. But like I said, the nanny state controls come in a bit too much. So yeah.
Big step forward from the early Model S anyway. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes out next from them, whether it's going to be a robo taxi or Model 2 or what have you. So there we go. It looks like we've gone over time, but I think we were having a good old chat there. But everyone, give us a like. Make sure you comment. Please share the video on as many channels as possible, because the more people that we can get involved in the YEV podcast, the better. With great questions today from everybody. So thank you very much. It's been really, really good. Is there anything that you guys want to end with? Oh, please send me some stories, EV stories, interesting stories to chargeheads@gmail.com. So if you want any weird or interesting EV stories, we'd love to hear them. We'd have it at the end of the podcast. So I think it's important to share these stories, no matter how random. Yeah, it'd be great to hear. But anything from you guys?
Yeah, not off the top of my head. I'm back on school run duty. I'm not school run duty. I'm back on childcare duty this week. So yeah, not a lot to look sort of EV related, I guess. But yeah,
Car Fest the weekend for me. So
yeah, I might be heading that way as well, and got plenty of other stuff going on. So yeah, watch this space. But thanks everyone again for taking part. And Kevin, Alex, I will see you next week, Sunday, 8 o'clock. Why? EV. Why?